Hey artists, for this asynchronous day, we are going to be creating and painting a color wheel using your oil pastels. So I mentioned this in the assignment, but the supplies you should have out include this color wheel that came in your sketchbook, some kind of cup, container, something with water that you can use to rinse your brush out. And then you'll need some kind of like plastic or glass surface. So like a lid to a Tupperware container works well, or a plate works well. Whatever you use can totally be washed. But you want something that has a plastic surface, something that if you put water on it, it's not going to absorb. So some kind of plastic, something that you'll be using as your palette. And then you'll take out the oil pastels that came in your supply kit as well. We'll be using some of those colors to create your color wheel and your paintbrush as well. Don't remember if I said that. So this is what your finished color wheel will look like. So we're going to be using your oil pastels to create each of these colors. They do look a little bit more pastel-like, so a little bit lighter, because we're gonna be kind of using these as watercolors. So the water will lighten the color, but this is still a great opportunity to practice color mixing and just practice using these. We'll be using the oil pastels as paint for our landscape painting this week. So this is kind of a good practice just to see how they work. So I would recommend following the process that I'm showing you here. You can just kind of paint along with me. You can pause the video as you need, or fast forward, rewind, however you like. But let's get going. All right, so we are going to start by painting the three primary colors. So red, blue, and yellow. And you can just take those oil pastels out, and I'm going to be using, it's just red, yellow, and blue. So I think there's a couple blues. There's a light blue and a blue. Use the regular blue. And then on your plastic surface, we'll call this the palette, whatever you're using as your palette, you're gonna take your oil pastel that you wanna start with, and you're just going to draw and press it in, draw a shape. And you can use as much or as little as you want. So you're just kind of drawing a circle or some kind of shape, getting the material onto that plastic surface. And then dip your brush in water. Add water to the color. All of these little shavings, all these little like dusty parts, get those in there. That will help act as paint. And you don't want too much water in here because that's really going to dilute the color. If I'm doing red, it will become really pinky. But you want enough water so that it starts to kind of liquefy. And then with your brush, you'll paint it in this section. So I can add a little bit more water. If I feel like I'm running out of the color, I'll just take more red and put more in there. But practice good craftsmanship, try to fill up the entire shape. Don't go try to, stay within this shape. Try your best to try and keep it like even tone, so it's not super dark in one area, super light in another, but it's kind of in more or less even, solid shape. It's just good to practice good craftsmanship. And voila. So I rinse my brush out when I'm done doing a certain color, kind of dry it off on the side of the cup. Now I'm going to let's do blue. So I take the blue oil pastel, draw it on my palette. The more you add, the darker, more rich your color will be able to get. Remember, don't add too much water to it, just dip your brush in water and then kind of mix it up. Getting any of those shavings in there will help. Blue. I'm gonna add a little bit more. I find that if I'm trying to add more oil pastel into the area I have already gotten wet, it doesn't work as well, so I'm just going right next to it. And then I can even use this water, bring it over, get more water if you need. So it's kind of like painting with watercolor. Rinse out my brush. And now I'm gonna add the yellow. Okay. All right. So now I have my primary colors, red, blue, and yellow. Next, I'm going to do my secondary colors, violet, green, and orange. Now, normally when we are in class and you have your paints that you're mixing, this is where we practice mixing red and yellow to create orange. We'd practice mixing blue and yellow to create green. But you do already have these colors kind of in your kit, and you know, let's just use what we have and we'll practice mixing the tertiary colors, the red, orange, red, violet, all of those. So I'm gonna start with the violet. And I'm gonna put this violet in between my red and blue, because when I mix my red violet, I can kind of pull those together, and then when I mix my blue violet, I can pull those together. So let's see how this works. I'm gonna put my violet here. I'm gonna make a bigger area. Oops, I didn't wash my brush out enough. See if I can add more. All right. There we go. Orange, I'll put down here by my yellow. I'll have to add more red to get the red orange, but that's okay. All right, and our last secondary color is green. So in your kit there is a light green and a green. So I'm gonna use the green, the darker one. I'm gonna put that kind of next to, in between the blue and the yellow. So again, all those shavings are actually kind of nice because it makes for a richer color. So get all those in there when you mix it with the water. And we're going in the green. Okay, So now I kind of have all those rainbow colors done. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. But now we have the tertiaries, so those in-between colors. So this is where I'm going to practice more of the color mixing, and I'll show you how I would do that. So let's start with red, violet. So red, violet, I'm gonna want a little bit of red and a little bit of the violet to mix in. So I'm gonna add a little bit more of this violet. Add water to it. And then let me pull over some of that red. Ooh, that's pretty. So what I'll be looking for here is that you are mixing a new color. We want it to look different than the violet and different than the red, but something that kind of lies in between. I like this color a lot. It is kind of a little bit too watered down, so I'm just adding a second layer here. That's better. All right, so let's try the same with the blue violet. I'm gonna add a little bit more blue. You could do this in a totally new spot too, but blue next to violet. And kind of bring in some of that blue. Ooh, that's pretty. I'm gonna try to do another layer of just the violet because I feel like it's kind of light. Okay, blue and green. I'm gonna add a little bit more green here. Water to my green. And then pull over some of that blue. I think blue-green, it's kind of like an aqua. It's one of my favorite colors. So you can notice this looks different than the green, it looks different than the blue, it's something kind of in between, which is what we want. All right, yellow, green, let's do it. So I'm gonna put some green by my yellow. Now the green can overpower the yellow really well, so I'm gonna start with, maybe I'll add some more yellow over here. Start with the yellow and bring in some of the green to that so that it doesn't get too dark. Perfect. Guess it could get a little darker. Excellent, so it's lighter than the green, but a little bit more green than the yellow, a little darker. Okay, yellow, orange. I'm gonna draw these two fresh next to each other. So remember, since yellow is lighter, I'm gonna start with the yellow and bring in a little bit of the orange to that so it doesn't overpower it. I can make it a little darker, I think. Done. I think I'm going to do another layer on the orange too, because that just looks really washed out. Meaning that I probably just had more water than I needed when I did that first layer. That looks better. Now we got my last square, red, orange. So I'm gonna do a little bit more orange and red next to it. And since my orange is lighter, I'm gonna start with the orange and bring in some of the red to it. That looks good. It's darker than the orange, but brighter, a little bit lighter than the red, which is what you want. Something in between. All right. So this is the main part of this worksheet that you want to complete. If you should already have these notes in your sketchbook, so you don't need to write that down at all at the bottom here. So once you're finished and you're happy with it, you can maybe wait to see how it dries. If you want to add another layer like I did for some of the areas, feel free. But once it's all dry and you feel good, snap a picture of it and submit to the assignment on Canvas. Nice work, everybody. Oh, and I forgot to mention that whatever you used for the palette, you can just wash off in the sink with soap and it should be as good as new. So as long as you use like this kind of plasticky material, again, a Tupperware or anything like that, that should be fine.